dat to the Who Dat Nation. Welcome to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and it is Falcon Hate Week. It is the rivalry of all rivals in sports, as the New Orleans Saints will take on their hated rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, this Sunday, 12 noon on Fox in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Saints are coming off of their first defeat of the season as they fell to the Philadelphia Eagles 15-12 in the Dome, and lackluster performance from the offense, I must say. And it was a game that, even now, going into this game against the Atlanta Falcons, I'm still, I don't know, head scratchingly confused by the performance of the New Orleans Saints this past Sunday against the Eagles. And the reason is, and I guess I drunk the Kool-Aid, for the first two games of the season. Looked like the Saints had woke up, turned the corner, giving us something different. And it's not because we lost. It's not that we lost. I can live with the loss. I wasn't expecting the Saints to go 17-0. I fully accept that. It was the manner in which they lost. The way that they looked like a Pete Carmichael offense last Sunday. It just reverted back to the last 2 years of the New Orleans Saints. That's what that offense looked like last week. And the defense did their job. I mean, they held this team to 15 points. And you would think the law of averages to a team that for the previous 2 weeks have been averaging 40-plus points a game, that should be enough to win the game. But we can only muster up 12 measly points. And, I still don't know who to truly point the blame to. Is it Clint Kubiak's game plan going into this game against the Eagles? Was it Derek Carr? Was it Alvin Kamara? Was it the fact that we lost our center early on in that game? Was it because we didn't have Taysom Hill, and so on and so forth? I mean, what was the reason? Well, honestly, it was a combination of all of the above. It was just the mere fact that everything got thrown out the window. And this is a team that needs everything to be perfect in order for us to succeed. And it is what it is. That's where we are at this point. We're basically front running. We have to jump on a team, get a 2-possession lead, and then it's off to the races. Other than that, we're in for a dogfight. And we was in a dogfight. Now, we did lose Eric McCoy. It was announced a couple of days after the game that he will require surgery on his groin. He'll be out for 6 to 8 weeks. And that's a major blow when you lose your center, the main piece, the anchor on your offensive line. And after he went out, it showed on that offensive line. Even with that, I really can't blame the offensive line, because I think they only gave up 1 sack in that game, but there was a lot of pressure on Derek Carr in that game, all coming up the middle. But that's a big blow to us going forward. But speaking of going forward, let's move past this. It is what it is. We can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, as they say. It's over and done with. We lost. Let's move on. We face the Atlanta Falcons this week in a big game. This is a major game that the New Orleans Saints are playing in week 4, because this has a lot of implications, as far as staying on top of the division, being in control of our destiny, and so on and so forth. So we are in a must win, if you will. Even if we were 3-0 right now, we'll be in a must win. That's how the schedule is set up. So we have to take advantage of these situations. The New Orleans Saints, who are 2-1, will play the Atlanta Falcons, who are 1-2, which kicks off a 2-game road trip for the New Orleans Saints. After this, we have to travel to Kansas City to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs on Monday night in a couple of weeks. So this will be a 2-game road stretch that's not going to be easy, as they seek to remain at least tied for first place in the NFC South. We are tied currently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also 2-1, and this adds to the point I was saying a few seconds ago that this is a must-win game. Because we're still in this race. We can't afford to take a step back and expect other teams to look out for us. We have to handle our own business. Now, the New Orleans Saints, as we discussed, is coming off a 15-12 loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. The two longtime NFC rivals battled for nearly all 60 minutes until Derek Carr threw that interception to Reed Blankenship with 48 seconds left in that game. And I'm not, even with that interception, I'm not putting that on Derek Carr. I love to rag on Derek Carr, but I'm not putting that on him. I've heard other podcasts and analysts talk, oh, he shouldn't have made that throw. Well, maybe, but at the same time, when you have a 300+ pound man coming at you free at full speed, the first thing coming out your mind is to get the ball out your hand. And so that's what he was trying to do. And so I really can't blame him for that. And he did take that hit, and he did get up kind of slow after. So come on, man. If he would have held on to it, he probably would have fumbled it anyway. Because he was that Davis or was that Carter? I can't remember which one it was, but they hit him. It was a nice hit. So either way, it probably would have been a turnover regardless. New Orleans had gotten out of the gates quickly for the third consecutive week this season. In the opening drive, we scored on our first possession yet again. This time it was a field goal by Blake Grupe, a 34-yard field goal that bounced off of the upright, and thank God it bounced the right direction and it went in. The 3-0 score stood until the fourth quarter. That stood the entire game almost, and then this explosion happened in the fourth quarter where Philly scored 15 points and we managed to score 9 points. But yeah, it was the Saints defense did stop the Eagles on 5 straight trips into their territory, but ultimately gave up two plays that cost us the game. It was the 65-yard touchdown run by Saquon Barkley and the 60-yard reception by their tight end, Dallas Goedert, where we saw 3 Saints defenders run into each other like the Three Stooges. It was like, my God, man, could this get any worse? And that was like a 3rd and 16 or something like that. That turned into a 60-yard game. But the Atlanta Falcons fell to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who we play next week. They lost that game last week 22-17. Even though the Falcons lost the time of possession battle and were 2 for 9 on third down, their defense was able to keep them in the game throughout that game, and gave the offense a chance to win the game late. It actually came down to the final play of the game. With less than a minute left, the Falcons were unable to convert a 4th down on the Chiefs' 12-yard line, and the Falcons were 1 of 3 on 4th downs in that game. Despite the Saints' loss, New Orleans is tied for first place in the South, as I said, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 2-1. They will play the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Hopefully the Eagles can go on a streak and take care of the Buccaneers for us. The Carolina Panthers, who are 1-2, will host the Cincinnati Bengals, who haven't won a game yet, which is probably the shocker in the NFL this season so far. That they haven't won a game. It's amazing to me. But the Carolina Panthers, hey, they switched quarterbacks. They got the red rifle up in there, Andy Dalton. He's going up against his old team in Cincinnati Bengals. It will be crazy that, now I'm just saying, I'm not predicting this, but it'll be crazy if Carolina goes and beat the Bengals, which will put them at 2-2, and the Saints lose against Atlanta, and we end up having the same record as the Panthers at this point. That would really stink. That would really put a lot of things in perspective. You know what I'm saying? Which, once again, adds to what I was saying earlier. I know I was sounding crazy that, week 4, this is a must-win game. This is what I'm talking about, because we have to win this game because anything can happen in the National Football League. We can end up being tied with the Carolina Panthers if they win and we lose. And this is a team that we demolished in week 1. And so keep all of this in mind. Very, very essential that we take this game seriously and come out with a victory against the Falcons. Not just because we hate them, but it's because we need to win the game. Now, there may be some bad blood there. Well, there's always bad blood when it comes to the Falcons. Let's not trip on that. But this time is a little more to it. There's a little more hot sauce added to it because you remember the last time we played the Falcons. It was the last game of the season last year. To be more accurately, it was the first week of this year, calendar year, in January the 7th, where the Saints won 48-17. We demolished them. And that was the game. That was the game when Jameis Winston was supposed to go in for a kneel down and end up turning around and handing the ball off to Jamal Williams so he can get a touchdown because he hadn't scored a touchdown the entire season, and let him score a touchdown on that play. And that almost got Dennis Allen behind, kicked on the 50-yard line when Arthur Smith, who was the coach of the Falcons at the time, he ended up getting fired, was about to kill him for, I guess you could say, running up the score on him on that play, which it was bad for him. Let's be real, because if they had done that to us, it would have been ready to kill him. But it feels a little different when you're on the other side of the gun. But yeah, that was that game. So this might be a little testy because of that game. Not to mention that Derek Carr, that was probably his best game as a Saint. I'm trying to remember. Well, I'm trying to compare it to other games. Yeah, that was his best game. He was surgical in that game. I think he was. I think he had like 250 yards or 260 yards, 4 touchdowns in that game. I mean, he tore Atlanta's defense apart in that game. I think the Honey Badger had a pick 6. It was a beast of a game. All for nothing because we didn't go nowhere after that. But yeah, that was a good old fashioned butt whipping. So yeah, they're gonna have some animosity going into this game. Let's get into some league rankings so far out of through 3 weeks of the season. Here are the rankings. Of course, the record: Saints are 2-1. Atlanta is 1-2. Scoring average ranking: Saints are second in the league. Scoring average 34.3. The Atlanta Falcons are 26th in the league with an average of 16.3. The opposing scoring average: Saints are ranked 5th, only giving up 14.7 points per game, whereas the Atlanta Falcons are 13th in the league, giving up 20.3 points per game. Total offense ranking: Saints are ranked 9th in the league, 343.3 average per game, to the Atlanta Falcons 20th ranked total offense with 307.3. Rushing offense: Saints are ranked 6th, averaging 153 yards per game, to the Atlanta Falcons 18, which is crazy. I thought it would have been higher, but they only average 107.7 yards per game. Passing yardage: Saints are ranked 20th in the league, 190.3, to the Atlanta Falcons 18th ranked passing offense with 199.7. Total defense: Saints are ranked 21st in the lead, and Atlanta is ranked 18th in the lead. Now, rushing defense, Saints are ranked 8th in the lead to Atlanta's 27th ranked rushing defense. Passing defense, Saints are ranked 25th in the lead to Atlanta's 11th ranked passing defense. Turnover margin, Saints are a +4. They are ranked 3rd in the league. Atlanta is a -2, putting them at 24th in the league. Total touchdowns, Saints have scored 12 touchdowns this season so far to Atlanta Falcons 5. Season leaders for both teams, starting with passing yardage. Of course, for the New Orleans Saints, it is Derek Carr. He is 44 for 64, 585 yards passing, six touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. For the Atlanta Falcons, it's Kirk Cousins. He is 56 for 84, 626 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Leading rushers for both teams, Alvin Kamara for the Saints, 61 carries, 285 yards, and 4 touchdowns. For the Atlanta Falcons is Bijan Robertson, 48 carries for 196 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, that's a shocker to me. I thought they would run the ball more, but they haven't. It's crazy. Leading receiver for both teams, starting with New Orleans, it is Chris Olave. 12 receptions, 178 yards, and 1 touchdown. For the Atlanta Falcons, Darrell Mooney. He has 12 receptions, 169 yards, and 1 touchdown. Let's go over our injury report. And there's no way to cut it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. This stinks as far as the Saints are concerned. Well, both teams really. I feel sorry for Atlanta in a sense because you go through their list and it's like half their team. But starting with the New Orleans Saints, of course, we know about Eric McCoy. He will be out for at least 6 weeks, but we know it's going to be longer than that with that surgery. As far as this game is concerned, A.T. Perry is ruled out of Sunday's matchup. Also ruled out for the first time in his illustrious career, his, in my opinion, Hall of Fame career, linebacker Demario Davis has been ruled out of Sunday's game against the Atlanta Falcons. And I think there's a lot more there because I remember the last couple of times we played Atlanta, I love Demario Davis, but he becomes a liability sometimes when it's, pass coverage. He's that's not his strong suit. And I remember them lining Robertson up, their running back, against Demario Davis, and he ate him up. And so I think this is more of a strategic thing. He is hurt, but I think in any other circumstances he probably would play. But I would hold him too for this reason because he can become a liability in this game. But he has been ruled out for the first time in his career. We know about Kendre Miller. He's on IR. I don't know when he's going to come back. They haven't said anything. They don't even mention Kendre Miller. And that's sad because I had a lot of high hopes for that young man at receiver. Questionable for Sunday's game is two of our best players, and that is Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, but I fully expect them to play, but they have been designated as questionable. For the Atlanta Falcons, their offensive line is in shambles right now. Their offensive tackle, Caleb McGray, he has been ruled out of Sunday's game. Their center, who got hurt in that same game, he has been placed on IR. And so they are really suffering in that middle. And so this is where the Saints should take advantage of. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped one for the Saints. Completely forgot about it. Messing with Atlanta about their center and their guard. Well, our center and our guard too, because Cesar Ruiz, he has officially been ruled out for Sunday's game as well. So that's man, you talk about the two best pieces, the two best players on your offensive line. They're not playing. Man, that stinks. that really puts a ooh boy. I'm worried. I'm a little worried. I'm gonna be honest with you. A little concerned about that. But going back over to the Atlanta Falcons, Bijan Robertson, he had a shoulder injury. He was limited all week, but he did fully participate Friday. I expect him to play. And their linebacker, Matthew Judon, he had a hamstring injury. He was limited all week, but he did participate fully on Friday. So I expect him to play. But they are coming in here a little beat up just like we are. It's going to be a battle of attrition, as they say. So we'll see how this all plays out this Sunday when they both take the field. As far as my predictions go for this game, I had going into the season, I said that we probably would split with Atlanta. I just didn't know where the split would come. I think this week, this game, we win this. I think the Saints will take advantage of Atlanta not quite getting it together yet. Atlanta has, and I don't know if Atlanta will actually get it together, but as it stands right now, they're still kind of trying to get it together. I mean, let's keep in mind they have a new system there, new coach, new quarterback, new linebacker, new safety, who we had in the building. I remember we worked out Justin Simmons. We decided we didn't need him, which we don't. We really don't. Those guys are doing a real good job in our secondary, so we really didn't need him. But the part that stinks, he went to our division rival in the Atlanta Falcons, and I think he got an interception off of Patrick Mahomes last week. So he's already producing over there. So that stinks. But I think the Saints can take advantage of some of Atlanta's injuries, especially on that offensive line. And, this is the game. This is the game where that defensive line should shine. You have a statue back there with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, there's no threat of Kirk Cousins breaking the pocket and trotting down the field for 20 yards. If that happens, we got deeper issues. But that is not going to happen. And with him being a statue back there, with that offensive line in the condition that they are, this defensive line should shine bright like a diamond, as Rihanna would say. This is no excuses. There's no excuses whatsoever. Now, Kirk Cousins isn't an idiot. He's a veteran quarterback. He knows he has to get the ball out quickly. And this is where the linebackers will come into play. And this is where this is why I believe the Demario Davis decision to sit him out this game is more strategic than it is injury, because the linebackers will have to do their jobs at the second level, because the ball will come out quickly this week versus the Saints front. And so I really need that defensive line to step up. Offensively, the New Orleans Saints, it's pretty simple. And I know it's easier said than done, but it's pretty simple. Stick to what won you those first two games of this season. It wasn't Derek Carr jacking the ball up 60 times a game. It was a run game, a solid run game. The advantage of losing that game against the Philadelphia Eagles, the one thing you can take away and kind of smile at, is the fact that you won't see a defensive line like that no more this season, unless you play the Philadelphia Eagles again in the playoffs. Other than that, and hopefully by then your offensive line is healthy again. But as it stands right now, you won't see a defensive front like this. You're going to see some good defensive players, don't get me wrong. All due respect to all of these teams, even the Atlanta Falcons, Matthew Judon is a beast. But I'm saying, he ain't no Carter. He ain't no Davis. Those are some grown boys. And so I think that the Saints offensive line, even though they're hampered right now, should be able to hold up against this defensive front. At least my fingers are crossed. And let's run the ball. Let's run the ball. Keep the Atlanta's defense honest, and then we can hit them over the top. Then we can try to get the ball down the field. Because if you notice what the Philadelphia Eagles were doing last week, they were taking away the run and taking away Shadeed, and to whereas everything underneath you had to be precise with, and Derek Carr didn't have the time to find that player, and that's where Chris Olave got to step up. That's where your tight ends have to step up. You didn't hear a tight end's name that entire game. That was the game you were supposed to shine. That's how Dallas Goddard did what he did. You know what I'm saying? Against the Saints last week. So you got to utilize the pieces you have. We do have great news. Taysom Hill didn't play last week. He is going to play this week. He is healthy. He's back. So that's an element to use. And, Taysom Hill he's that piece, man. He is that go-getter. So this is the type of game where he can shine. And I hope so, because he's on my fantasy team as well. So I need him to bless me twice this week. But he is back, and I think no matter where you use him, whether it's tight end or as running back, he can be highly successful this week against the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, I predict the Saints to come out victorious against the Atlanta Falcons this week. I hope and pray that I'm right. But I would like to know, what do you think? Will the Saints get back to their winning ways and defeat the Atlanta Falcons this week? Or do you think the Saints will fall to 2-2 against our hated rivals this week? I would love to know your thoughts. You can email the show at kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also comment on all of our social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video, please. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast here on the KB Radio Network. Thank you for joining me as we previewed our New Orleans Saints taking on their Atlanta Falcons this week, Sunday, September the 29th, 12 noon on Fox. Let's cook them dirty birds. Can't wait to speak to you after that game when we recap and react to the Saints coming out victorious against those Falcons. After the game, be on the lookout for that show. Until then, you can hear me screaming loud and proud, "Who dat?"